Well, I reckon we can start early. Well, hello once again, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of TMC, the 26th episode now. My goodness. We are now over halfway through the year. I've been doing this for at least like 6 months now, for sure, for definite. And I've been bringing episodes basically every single week with a few exceptions. Now for 6 months, and that's a bit crazy. 6 month anniversary week, I guess. Because hey, like if we make it to 52, and I hope we eventually make it to 52, that would be a whole year. So yeah, I mean, thank you very much for tuning in. Of course, TMC would be absolutely nothing without all of you at home, sitting in your wonderful chairs or watching on your phones or wherever you happen to be today. And yes, as usual, we have a great many things to talk about. Lots of news happened today, interestingly. There's been leaks and developments to stories and crazy things coming out left, right and centre. Of course, this week will be the last week before Freedom Day, as it has been coined by many people in the media and, of course, the UK government. The 19th of July, next Monday, will see the opening of basically every other sector of the economy as all legal restrictions turn into guidelines, basically. And it's quite, again, I feel like I talked about this last week, but it's very much Groundhog's Day again in comparison to where we were this time last week. As of yesterday, we reported 48,553 new daily coronavirus cases. We have been going up in number of cases since the beginning of June, but it's really started to come up now. We've not seen case numbers, or at least daily case numbers like this since early January, which is, of course, when we did our last lockdown. And in terms of vaccination rates, we are slowly decreasing the number of vaccination rates as well. I don't know if you heard this, but we now have 2/3 of the adult population of this country fully vaccinated. So that's both with 1 jab or 2 jabs. So thank you everybody who went to go and get a jab. That's absolutely brilliant stuff. And I guess the last thing that I do need to mention on the vaccines, though, is that we actually have been overtaken. But don't tell anyone. Shh, it's a secret. Actually, I might as well share with you the data that I'm looking at right now, because it's what I use every single week to keep you guys updated with where we are with vaccinations and COVID rates and such. But, oh, that's embarrassing. Where did you go? You're supposed to be showing. Nope, that's not the one. Oh, that's just incredible. Nope. Well, hang in there, ladies and gentlemen, because I would like to show you what I've got, but unfortunately I cannot right now. Yeah, Streamlabs is acting really great. But if you want to know who's overtaken us in terms of the number of vaccinated people that are in their country, it is Germany. Germany is now sitting on 85 million vaccinations administered, and we are sitting on 81 million. Now, as percentage of the population, we still have a larger amount of people vaccinated, like as a percentage. But, you know, because Germany is obviously bigger than us and has more people. But yeah, we are no longer even Europe beating in our vaccination rollout. Because, of course, the United States and India have always been, like, surging ahead in vaccination rates, right? Because, again, they've got more people to do and they've got more, capacity that vaccinations that need to be administered, right? Those are massive hotspots for the amount of people that there are on this planet. But yet we are now falling behind our closer friends and partners over the pond nearby us. I am going to have to go to a little bit I might have to be back because I genuinely cannot do the show without being able to show the screen, and I was sharing the screen in just a moment. So bear with me here. I will be back momentarily, and yeah, I'll sort it all out. So don't go anywhere. Keep your eyes and ears glued to this channel. Actually, what the hell? We'll just do this on the fly because nothing says professionalism like that. Why does that just not exist? Oh, I could show you the volume mixer. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? What if I did this, huh? Would you want... Google Chrome is hella bugging out right now. Actually, I might need to end the stream, which blows, but I will be right back. I will be right back on it momentarily. So yeah, give us a second, ladies and fellas, and yeah, I will be. Oh. Way! Oh, that's great. It's also huge, so my apologies. But we managed to find it. There you go. Oh, resizing this is going to be great because it's been the same size every single episode. And yet now, you know, now it's all gone wrong. But yeah, there's our vaccination data. As you can see, Germany is now gone. Well, I've destroyed Germany. Germany is now just a mere hole in Europe. But yes, they have more vaccinations than us. In other news, though, after that kind of big, bit of a shambles of a start, we also have to talk about the football, because, ladies and gentlemen, it's coming home. It came home, and we were so happy about it. And oh, I was out of my chair, you know, when I heard that England won. And wait, what was that? Yeah, mate, you, my analyst, sorry. You said it's coming home. No? You said Rome. I see. Breaking news, everybody. England didn't win the football. as you may have seen on last Sunday. Yeah, we got our butts handed to us by Italy. Well played, of course, and except for the fact that they were out to rip our collars off, both figuratively and literally, in terms of playing really dirty in some instances. But football's football, the rules are the rules, and England still did a cracking job at nabbing second. I mean, we never even get that far anyway, so the mere fact that we even got to that point is very, very impressive, and the whole team, managed, of course, by Gareth Southgate, should be proud. But of course, we have to still talk about it because after the match on Sunday, there was a torrent of racist abuse hurled at the three players who missed the penalties, who also all happen to be people of colour. So you probably can guess where that ended up. Saka, Rashford, and if you're more knowledgeable than I, please do tell me who the last player was. But no, we have to talk about that because actually Boris Johnson suggested some legislation in regards to letting people in the venue in future to stop this kind of racist abuse getting to the players. And the fact that that sort of legislation would even be kind of, speculated is not something that I expected from a Conservative government. So yeah, we do have to talk a little bit about that, especially because football gets my numbers up. So yeah, if you're here for football, then you're in the right place. Sancho? Is it Sancho? I'm just going to assume it's pronounced Sancho. And that C is not a hard C. But yes, that'll be our second topic today. So we have got to... Well, no, it's our first topic, actually. Jeez, how did you got to the second one? Yeah. The second topic, of course, is COVID passes. The government is introducing a brand new scheme. If scheme is the right word for it, because it does seem to be a lot of scheming. In terms of how people are going to be able to get into venues in the future. These are going to be called COVID passes. You're going to be able to get them on the NHS app, and they are essentially designed to be the closest we can get to Manchester United. Not Manchester United. I read that in the chat and that just came out of my mouth. Wow. It's the closest we're going to get to vaccine passports. There we go. I'm muddling all my words this morning. So earlier on in the year, the Conservatives were basically juggling the idea of vaccine passports, and they seem to have landed at a solid compromise here. So these COVID passes will not be mandatory for you to get into some events, but they are being recommended for stuff like nightclubs and other big gatherings like festivals as they continue into next year and beyond. And especially since that Freedom Day is coming within the week now. We are mere days away from it. I thought that it'd be important to talk about those, if they're going to work, how you can make sure that you're getting into all the venues that you want to get into, if these venues are requiring COVID passes, and to make sure that you're all informed, because yes, that is what I am indeed here for. And the last story today is going to be a little bit of an exclusive that came out yesterday. We're going to be talking a little bit about Trump's grip on the Republican Party and seemingly Putin's grip on Trump. Because if you are not aware, there was a story published in The Guardian yesterday talking all about how Putin was... Oh, I wish it was a TMC exclusive, let me tell you. But the exclusive story basically was a whole bunch of leaked documents straight from the Kremlin that The Guardian got its hands on. Goodness knows how they did that. But they were verified by independent adjudicators who basically told them that, yes, these documents are real. And the documents talk about how the Putin administration made active moves and what their strategies were to make sure that they could influence the 2016 election and make sure that Trump gets into power, because it would cause a destabilizing effect. And geez, weren't they right about that? It's crazy, especially for these documents to come straight from the Kremlin. It's, you know, kind of confirms, I feel like, what we already knew in terms of Russian interference and how that has come to really colour a lot of the democratic processes since the 2016 election. If you may even remember last year, the Russia report was released in terms of interference in both the Scottish referendum and the Brexit referendum here in the UK. And that report concluded, if I am correct, that there may have been interference from the Russians, or at least they definitely tried to do so in order to make Scotland go towards independence and Brexit further towards Brexit. So yeah, Russian influence is a big deal, and we're going to talk about it today. So if you're not already doing so, follow the links down there. Make sure you're giving us a follow. There's a new link down there as well. Oh, would you look at that? It is the YouTube link. Ooh, isn't that fancy and nice? There is a new YouTube channel which I am currently working on. It is not, it hasn't got anything on it yet, but we are currently getting places with it. And it's once I get all the Adobe stuff and the editing stuff that I need onto my computer, because I was using it up at university before, I will be putting videos and putting the little segments that I do on this stream onto the YouTube channel. So if you want to watch that, if you want to catch up, if there's a particular topic that you want to dive headfirst into, it'll be on there in future. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's new, it will be here, and it will be making sure that you guys can get your information in bite-sized chunks. But without further ado, I think we'd better start getting going with the show. And of course, I think that we need to start with the story that came out today and that I can't stop laughing at. GB News sees 0 viewers on some shows after boycott presenters to take the knee. That's right. The GB News, something that we did a segment on only a few weeks ago now, has reported, according to the Broadcasters Audience Research Board, which does a whole bunch of statistics, viewership statistics for this sort of thing, broadcast television, showed that no measurable audience was recorded between some of the shows between 1 p.m. and 1:30, and this also happened at 5 p.m. Now, this is pretty great for several reasons. The first is that this is genuinely difficult to do. Nobody watches GB News. If I can spell. Would you look at that? And it's genuinely impressive that something with this much money in it legitimately had 0 viewers. Which, as you correctly point out, Organ, means that TMC has had more viewers than GB News, an organisation with Andrew Neil at the helm, and has had several £million poured into it. You're all clowns! How is that even possible? This should not be a thing, ladies and gentlemen, but it is. You guys have made this show more popular than some of the shows, yes, indeed, on GB News. And I just want to give a massive congratulations to you, because you've done it, guys. This is what we were all dreaming for. I didn't think this channel would become more popular than a big broadcast news channel this quickly. It's truly been a dream of mine, and, you know, that's all thanks to your support, so... yeah, thank you very much for that. This really made me laugh, but basically how this came around was... GB News viewers decided to boycott the news service after somebody on one of their programs decided to take a knee. I'm not going to play the video, but basically the thumbnail says it all. Somebody actually decided to go against the narrative of GB News and said, actually, I don't think taking a knee to support anti-racists is, or, you know, an anti-racist agenda is a bad thing. You know, shocking as that may be. And it really does mean that we need to jump straight into the story, because racist abuse in football kind of reared its ugly head once again. There has, of course, we talked about football hooliganism last time on the show, and it's genuinely impressive how some fans can get so enamored and into it to the point where the people who are on the team that they support just get peppered with just the worst kind of insults. And so, yes, racist abuse of England players, Marcus Rashford, is it Jadon Sancho? And Saka was labelled unforgivable by the manager, Gareth Southgate. I am going to show you now some of the racist abuse, or some of the lines, not specifically anything that was said, but certain comments from people on Saka's Instagram. And I just wanted to put a trigger warning out there. There will be essentially racist content that I'm about to show that is genuinely horrible, but apparently it was a sentiment that absolutely lit up Saka's more recent Instagram posts upon the loss. And it was this. People started posting monkey emojis in his Instagram comments. And I mean, if there isn't an example, if there isn't a better example of, there really isn't, a better example of white privilege, I guess. If this was Shaw who'd missed the goals, if it was, I don't know, Harry Kane didn't score a single goal. And he was in the box half the time when, England was pushing forwards. And yet they obviously would have also gotten hate, but it would not be as incredibly offensive and racist as this. And people basically came together to say that this was just unacceptable. This was absolutely and completely unacceptable. Even Boris Johnson came out to say it was unacceptable. In the House of Commons. Do I really have to... Oh, there's another ad. Brilliant. But whilst that's playing, I just want to say that, yeah, this is genuinely... I've read some of the stuff on the night, and it was incredibly just...
Criticised the England team's decision.
Stupid. It was just stupid. I don't understand how people can get that bad. But this was Boris Johnson's response.
I agree very much with what the right honourable gentleman said about the England team. And I repeat, I want to thank each and every one of them for what they did, their incredible campaign they ran in the Euro 2020 Championships. And they do represent the very best of our country. And I repeat that I utterly condemn and abhor the racist outpourings that we saw on Sunday night. And so what we're doing is today taking practical steps to ensure that the football banning order regime is changed, so that if you are guilty, Mr. Speaker, of racist abuse online of footballers, then you will not be going to the match. No ifs, no buts, no exemptions, and no excuses.
But of course, Labour's Keir Starmer called that out to be a little bit hollow, right? We have talked a number of times on this show, goodness knows how many at this point, and it's only been 26 episodes, about the comments that Boris Johnson has made in the past. Indeed, Ian Blackford actually challenged him at PMQs about the racist comments that Boris Johnson had made in the past. But of course, he said they were all taken out of context. All the stuff that he said about pickaninnies with watermelon smiles, I believe. I don't quite know how you can take that out of context to make that seem any better than that description of black men actually is. But somehow Boris Johnson thought that there must be a context out there where that is okay. Because for the record, he still hasn't apologised for those comments in the House of Commons. And of course, Priti Patel came out against this as well. Priti Patel's been quite the figure for coming out against all of the unacceptable abuse. She's been a particular target for people who I guess don't believe her, and rightfully so. This one tweet by Tyrone Mings, who of course is a English football player, I believe, basically got to the core of the argument the quickest. Priti Patel said, "I am disgusted that England players who have given so much for our country this summer have been subject to vile racist abuse on social media. It has no place in our country, and I back the police to hold those responsible accountable." But of course, absolutely slammed back. And this was the big story of the day. It's crazy how one tweet, and I don't know why it's crazy because this is just the news now. It's crazy how one tweet can take over the front page of basically every single major newspaper in the country. But yeah, Tyrone Mings came out to say you don't get to stoke the fire at the beginning of the tournament by labelling our anti-racism message as gesture politics and then pretend to be disgusted when the very thing we're campaigning against happens. I mean, what can you say? I don't think there is a more concise way to really put her in her place. And of course, we kept the receipts, ladies and gentlemen. We made sure to keep the receipts of Priti Patel calling this gesture politics. I mean, here she is on GB News, funnily enough. We might be, I mean, this, view count begs to differ. But, we are, I'm going to leave that one. Here's what she said.
Support, people participating in, that type of gesture politics.
But today, offering the players their support.
Everyone in the House will absolutely join in both celebrating our incredible football team and the resilience of all our players, but fundamentally calling out the appalling actions that we saw last night.
Wow, really? Oh man. If only there was a way that they could protest against this, and I reasonably expect the government to be on their side when they are protesting against the sentiment that you are now brutally condemning. But I want to kind of focus on what Boris Johnson said at the end of the video that I played you, because he announced a football ban for online racists. So essentially what the shtick would be, right, is you would have some sort of system in place that allowed your racist comments, if you hurled racist abuse or if you tweeted racist abuse at a player or left a comment somewhere, to be tracked down to you. And the police would essentially make sure that I guess it would have to be done at the stadium, right? You would be taken aside. You'll have your name, of course, you'd have all your details. And if you were found to have posted racist abuse online, you simply wouldn't be allowed into the stadium. I mean, that is how I would imagine it working. I don't know how it really would work, because it seems very either worrying that the government can find out who you are and if you're going to a match just from some comments on the internet, or completely ineffective, because they can either do that, which is worrying, or they don't have the means to do it, which means that this would be absolutely awful, right? This would just be a policy that they could never enact. And I think it's a policy that really misses the point. Actually, before I go into what I think, I want to know what you think about the football ban for online racists. Do you think it would be effective? Do you think it's something that should be the first response we see to something like this? And yeah, because... Sorry about that. Do you think this is the correct response from Boris Johnson to have a football ban for online racists in our stadiums? Because I genuinely believe that this is a little bit ineffective. You either can't do it because you can't track down people with tickets from their social media status or their social media comments. And if you can do that, that's incredibly crazy. But even if you could, it's not tackling the main issue here. Yes, the issue is obviously racists being allowed to scream their racist abuse. But this doesn't protect people online from racist abuse. This doesn't protect... it may protect the footballers from racist abuse from the fans in the stadium, but it's not going to protect them online. I feel like what Boris Johnson's policy very much here is cutting off the heads of the weeds and saying that the weeds are gone. The issue is far more deep-rooted than a policy like that can ever attempt to actively combat. What needs to happen is there needs to be basically, it needs to get into the education system, right? And it needs to get into our everyday lives. That being a racist is not a good thing, and that being a racist isn't encouraged, and you can't get away with being racist in any context, really, whether that be employment or in football stands or on social media, whatever. The way this goes away is by tackling racism in this country. And if you produce one-sided reports that say systemic racism doesn't exist, and if you refuse to acknowledge white privilege as something that people just have, then you are essentially denying the deeper rooted issues of this problem. And it is something that I think is this is a policy that very much paves over the cracks of the real issue that is deep down there, and that is racism in our society. And yes, not allowing racists to get away with racism is one way of dealing with it. But again, we need to tackle it from the bottom up. This needs to be taught. We need to focus more on anti-racist stuff with kids and teenagers, because they grow up to become these people. And they might even be some of these people that you see using social media and posting all of these horrible abuse. So long story short, I'm not against the policy. I just think that if this is the only policy that Boris Johnson enacts on this issue, then this issue is not going to get solved. 12 Hackaby Dan writes, I think they can do it. It's possible, then absolutely. Don't let racists into the stadiums. That's my man. I would like to think that our generation is at least a little more understanding of these issues, but it would be great to see if we could get it into the education sector. No, I completely agree. I think it's something that, again, we just need to tackle from the bottom up. And yes, not allowing racists into the stadium is, number one. That is something that we can do to initially address the problem. I don't know if anybody knows when the next big football tournament is, if it's the Champions League or the Premier League, and if that is something that is happening this year or next. Is it really the World Cup? Because I would have thought that they'd have something in between the Euros and the World Cup, but maybe I'm just that out of touch with football. I'm a very casual football fan. World Cup is next winter, makes sense. But yeah, that we'll have to see how those kind of rules go into the World Cup. Because for now, something like this is, again, very much paving over the cracks of a very, very real problem. There'll be the Champions League final and the Premier season, or the Prem season before that. I'm assuming that means Premier. Again, not the biggest football fan there's ever been, but okay, we'll have to see how that goes then. Because realistically, this is the kind of thing that we will see continue into regular football tournaments like the Premier League and the Champions League. And so we'll have to keep an eye on this policy, because if we see racist abuse being hurled at our football players again, we need to come back to this and go, where is it, Boris? Where are the bans for these racists? Comic Scholar says what needs to happen is more of a structural change, similar to what has happened in Hollywood. This is an issue that's been going on since my dad was a kid and at matches, and it's something at the moment entrenched in football supporters and culture. And yeah, actually, you add a really nice side to that argument, Comic Scholar, because you're absolutely right. This is something that is very much baked into these people. The bans of people going to matches is one thing, but it's not going to stop them altogether from, feeling the way that they feel about these people. And if they think that they are absolutely, you can not like players or specific players for various different reasons. That's fine. But as soon as you start going after them based on their race, as soon as you spam monkey emojis in their Instagram comments, that comes from a very deep place of believing that these people just aren't the same as everyone else or deserve to be treated worse. And again, as you rightly point out, that's something that needs to be rooted out of football culture. And that's not something that's going to go away in a year's time, 5 years' time, 10 years' time. But we need to sow the seeds of equality and treating people with respect now, so that later on we don't raise another generation that is full of people who are, who have hatred in their heart and who, post this kind of thing and hurl this kind of abuse, because it's just not on. It's quite frankly, completely ridiculous, horrific, and should be condemned by people who genuinely believe that racism is to be condemned. Boris Johnson. But anyway, if you have any last thoughts, please let me know in the chat. Of course, I'm going to plug all of the different stuff. Now, follow us down below. Follow the Twitter. It's the same handle as the Twitch channel. Of course, I'm going to post a link in the Discord for the Discord momentarily. The Discord is where I post all of the stories that I'm going to be looking at today and that I'm looking at through the week. It's something that it's basically like a newsletter, if you're familiar with newsletters, where you can see what I'm thinking, what I'm talking about, and make sure that you're keeping up to date with all the news as it happens throughout the week. So make sure you're all on top of that. And yeah, we will go straight into our next topic, shall we? Here we go. I wish I could do emojis, but instead I'm just going to sin on God and do that, because was very much my reaction where I don't have emojis. So yeah, next we will be talking all about Trump and Putin and the story surrounding that I explained at the top of the hour, and yeah, without further ado, I think we can just get into it. So, ladies and gentlemen, The Guardian had an exclusive this week. It's not very often you get to say that, because normally the exclusives, or at least the big exclusives of this year, come from the tabloids and the Murdoch papers. Cough, cough, Matt Hancock, and his aide, cough, cough. But The Guardian managed to get hold of Kremlin papers that appear to show Putin's plot to put Trump in the White House. Now, we already knew that there was Russian interference in the US presidential election of 2016. But these new documents further outline and explain when this campaign to get Donald Trump into the White House started, and the kind of stuff that they did to make sure that they achieved their mission. So Vladimir Putin personally authorized a secret spy agency operation to support a, quote, mentally unstable. Wow, you think? How could he see it from so long ago? Donald Trump in the US presidential election of 2016 during a closed session of Russia's National Security Council, according to what are assessed to be leaked Kremlin documents. The key meeting took place on 22nd of January 2016. So Trump would have started campaigning at this point, because they start campaigning late, or the back half of the year before the election. They agreed that the Trump White House would help secure Moscow's strategic objectives, among them social turmoil in the US and weakening of American president's negotiating position. As it correctly says, Trump was the front runner of the Republican Party's nomination race. So, yeah, this is absolutely huge. But of course, in a normal world with normal consequences, this would be the kind of thing that would sink Trump's popularity forever. And again, it's not something we haven't known about already for ages. Case in point, we... please load. Okay. We had the Mueller report. The Mueller report. Does anybody remember the flipping Mueller report? That whilst it did not tie Russian election interference to the Trump campaign, it did say that there was definitely Russian interfering. And we know since then that people like Donald Trump Jr. and several other members of the Trump team did meet with Russian officials over the course of the campaign. One of the big attacks, of course, at the time was the Russian cyber attack against the DNC, or the Democratic National Convention, which was people in the intelligence community directly involved in uncovering and tracking the Russian hack. So a new flow of information has directly connected Putin to what began as a lower-level effort by Russian military to infiltrate the computers of both the Republican and Democratic figures. So that would have been Trump and Hillary. Once the hackers were successful in breaching the Democratic National Committee's systems, Putin became more directly involved with the effort, the intelligence sources say. And of course, what was the breach of the Democratic National Committee? I don't know if you remember this story, but I certainly did. Basically, they leaked a bunch of emails that suggested that the Democratic National Convention, or the committee, which essentially is responsible for running the Democratic Party and giving money to the nominees, etc., had a bias towards Hillary Clinton in comparison to Bernie Sanders. And of course, this would have really hurt Hillary Clinton's campaign, and it would have shown the Democrats as a whole bunch of corrupt people. Which, you know, there are definitely arguments out there that you can make, and this was most certainly one of them. But of course, if we want to talk about how Donald Trump even got in 2016, we need to talk about the failures of the Clinton campaign, because it should have been a slam dunk. Alas. But, despite all of this, this week we saw another conservative convention, another CPAC that this time was hosted in Dallas, Texas. And every CPAC there is a poll done for Donald Trump, not for Donald Trump, for the leaders of the Republican Party. Everybody who goes is basically asked, who do you want to see as the next Republican nominee for president? And of course, Trump absolutely crushed the poll. Despite the fact that, again, these these reports come out and all of this stuff that Trump's done is, incredibly heinous. And what's the nicest way I can possibly put it? The worst? The stuff that he's done is the worst. Let's settle with that. But yeah, as you can see, this is the poll of all the CPAC members, and it really just affirms that Donald Trump is very much the future still of the Republican Party, and so is Trumpism. Trump's sitting at a huge 70%, and the only other candidate to get more than 1% of the votes was Ron DeSantis. And if you remember, if you're a loyal viewer to this show, you may remember that Ron DeSantis was the man who, let's zoom in for a second with this, shall we? To show you the poll there. We did a little bit on Ron DeSantis and who he is. He is the governor of Florida. He has passed, and he's very much, Trump's right-hand man, I guess. Or if you wanted a replacement for Trump, he is your man. Because he's very much like anti-trans, anti-LGBT in general. He's also passed some voting restriction bills in his state. And so a lot of people see him as, well, if Donald Trump can't run because he's too old, or he just doesn't want to, even though I'm pretty sure he's now saying that he 100% does want to run in 2024, then Ron DeSantis would be the next man in line for the throne. And yeah, it's kind of crazy that despite this information, despite now knowing that there was that Putin actively supported Donald Trump. Of course, this doesn't. This is not a story that proves that Donald Trump was in collusions with Putin about this. It does not prove that they were working together or that Trump was banking on Putin for anything. It just shows that Putin was interested in Trump, right? We're not, going crazy with tinfoil hat conspiracies. Let's take the story for how it is. But yeah, despite the fact that Putin wanted Trump to win, and that we now know that from several different angles, he is still the one to stand up to Americans' enemies overseas. So, is this, my question to you following this is, what is Trump's endgame with this? Sorry for the dropped frames, by the way. I have absolutely no idea why those are happening. Okay, they should stop now. At least I hope. But yeah, what is Trump's endgame on this? Because at some point, if you want to overthrow the government, which is what he tried to do in January, on January the 6th, there's got to be the idea that, you're going to be the president again. Okay, he's the president again. Is he going to be the president forever? I genuinely don't understand how, why Trump is so obsessed with his own image and is so obsessed with being the president, I guess. Why would he want to be, the president of the US forever, I guess? Is that a weird is that a weird question? Because when you have people colluding to, or allegedly colluding, I should say, to destabilize Western democracies like Putin, and when you have Trump knowingly, you know he knows, right? Knowingly trying to overthrow democratically elected people to instate an undemocratic result. He wants to be president, but why? Do you want to be the president? He has joked about running for a third term, by the way. He genuinely has, I could probably get the video. There are videos out there that of him going oh, maybe I'll run for a third term. And a lot of people on the left going, ha ha ha, that's super funny. Despite the fact that he'd do it. He would actually do it. So, yeah, he's a narcissist. He doesn't want to get arrested. Maybe. But, maybe I just cannot imagine that sort of level of narcissism. Maybe I can't get my head around why you would want to be the leader of all these people, even if you're killing them by the hundreds of thousands with a pandemic response that basically doesn't exist. He doesn't care. But if he doesn't, I've met narcissists, but surely not that big, right? I'm more leaning on the side of he doesn't want to get arrested. Which, of course, people are currently making moves to try and get that to happen. But I wanted to ask the question, because whilst it isn't directly relevant to, the Kremlin papers themselves, there has to be an end game to not just Russia's actions here, aka what did the article say again? Their end game was very much social turmoil and the weakening of the American president's negotiating position. But there has to be an end game for Trump too. And I guess if it is just to be king of the world forever, then he is maybe more delusional than we realised. But yeah, that is I think where I'm going to leave this story. I think it's quite interesting that we have even more information about something that Donald Trump repeatedly calls a hoax. And ladies and gentlemen, there is one last thing I want to leave you with when we're talking about CPAC 2021 in Dallas, Texas. The conservative convention for all kinds of racists and bigots to get on stage and talk about conservative values. We've had Donald Trump, who is openly anti-trans and called Mexicans rapists and all that stuff. But there is one man who was destined to speak at CPAC might have been even worse. And that man, my friends, is called Nick Fuentes. Now, we need to talk a little bit about him because there is a beautiful story here. And this was a clip that genuinely had me in tears. If you don't know who Nick Fuentes is, he was a political commentator on YouTube. He was a conservative who's expressed anti-Semitic views. He's good friends with a Republican senator. I forget which one it is, but he has some connection with him. And yeah, like he was basically Ben Shapiro, but even further to the right. Like it was crazy. And he was basically removed from YouTube last year. And more recently, he was removed off of Twitter. Paul Gosar, that's the one. And yeah, Nick Fuentes, the 22-year-old leader of the white nationalist group who was embraced by Paul Gosar for Arizona, was suspended on Twitter on Friday. And so he's been cancelled, right? He's down. He's out of it. Nobody will ever listen to him again because he's been cancelled off all these social medias. But of course, he was destined to speak at CPAC. Now, this clip is genuinely... I can't bring this up, I can't build this up enough. I'm just going to let you watch this clip. But he attracted some attention because obviously he has a following, right? Even though he's not got any social media. And he was bigging up his speech for the event. And I'm just going to let you listen to him supporting, him galvanizing the crowd. Because when I saw this, my jaw was on the floor for at least a minute. So yeah, for reference, that is Fuentes there in the middle. Watch this.
It's white boy summer, we're white. It's America first. I was just telling everybody, we're doing a press conference at 5 o'clock p.m. at the Sheraton.
Well, hey, a press conference.
Across the street. I'll be giving my most unchained speech ever. I'm off of Twitter. I have nothing to lose. So this is going to be the most racist. The most anti-Semitic. The most Holocaust denying. Speech in all of Dallas this weekend. Yes. So I'll see you there. Should we try to walk in a seat? It is America uncanceled after all, isn't it?
Isn't it just, Fuentes? Isn't it just? Now, there are so many levels to this video, right? Obviously, the first level of this video is him promising the most racist, sexist speech at the convention, which might actually be a tougher feat than he initially thought. The second level of this video is, of course, the fact that his supporters here that were surrounding him cheered louder for anti-Semitic, which, of course, is something that happened. Why did he do an FGC pop-off? Because he pops off for anti-Semitism, and clearly all of his friends do. But then there's another thing in this video. I want to point out this lady here, right? This lady here, if you watch the video again, right? She is clearly a fan. She's smiling. She's hanging out around there. She has her CPAC pass as well. He labels all of the things that he is going to do with this speech, right? And then, if it pans back to her, come on, show her again. She's still smiling. She's still smiling after this dude was like, I'm gonna talk crap about people of color and women. And she is both of those. So congratulations. At some point, you just need to realize that you are being taken for a ride and are a laughing stock. But hey, that's just my opinion. So yeah, Nick Fuentes, everybody, on point to deliver the most racist, the most sexist, the most anti-Semitic speech at CPAC. And then he got banned from the event. This is no joke. So he was on point to give a speech, right? And then he was removed from the Conservative Political Action Conference on the Saturday. So despite this being America Uncancelled, right? Despite this supposed to be the convention where everything's on the table and you could say whatever you want, he got removed. I don't know if you... I hope that you guys... I can't be the only one who finds this funny, right? Like, he was so offensive that he got cancelled from the Conservative... from the Conservative Political Actions Conference. That takes a special kind of man. So, big applause to Fuentes there. And I guess I only have one last thing to say. Congratulations, buddy. You did it. Oh, yeah. But anyway, that's the end of this segment of TMC when we're talking about Trump and Russia and the leaked Kremlin papers. If you have any last things to share, please do, whether it be about the collusion or if it's just to, doing a mega lol at Nick Fuentes, who got cancelled from the America Uncancelled convention. Very well done, buddy. You earned it. But yeah, remember when he said I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters? It's all about power. Actually, you make a good point there. If we're going to steer it back to Trump and why he would, what his end game is, if it's all about power, that would make more sense. It's probably for both reasons in terms of not getting arrested and just keeping his power, because he loves to exercise power. I mean, you point out that example, and that is a very good example to point out. But he also tear-gassed Black Lives Matter protesters just to get a photo op with an upside-down Bible outside of a chapel on the White House grounds. So, this is a man who will do anything with the power he's given. And so if there's an opportunity to get more of it, I guess he will get it. But yeah, if that's all we have to say about that topic, we're going to move, lastly, on to our final topic of the day, ladies and gentlemen. One that will be affecting you all, I hope, very soon, probably. COVID passes, when and how? So, yeah, we are going to start getting into something that will directly affect your guys' future. If you live in the UK and you're planning to take advantage of all of the loosening of restrictions, the final loosening of restrictions on the 19th of July, you need to know about these COVID passes. So there is going to be a bit of news here, but this is also a bit of a public service announcement because this matters to you, because it will determine what venues you can get into in the future. So an NHS COVID pass shows your coronavirus vaccination details or test results. You may be asked to show your pass to get into some events where COVID pass is being trailed or to travel abroad. Always check entry requirements to a venue or a country before you visit, obviously. So what will the COVID pass entail? You can get one after you've either been double vaccinated, recently taken a COVID-19 test, If it's negative, you will have a COVID pass for 48 hours after the negative test result is put into the NHS app. Or if you have a positive test result, after your isolation period of 10 days, you will have a COVID pass that allows you to get into any venue 180 days later. And now after that, you will have to get a new one. So these passes are essentially being introduced to make sure that COVID-19 does not spread as these bigger events begin to happen. So whether that be, hey, fighting game tournaments, Dan, if you're still in the audience, whether that be nightclubs, whether that be festivals in the future, COVID passes are being recommended for these events. Now, it's important to state one thing. The government is not making these a mandatory thing to get into any potential big gathering event. These are to be used or mandated on the discretion of the owner of the grounds and the event, not the event organizer, sorry. Whoever owns the grounds, whoever's putting on the event, I guess. So if it's a nightclub, for example, it'll be on the owner of the nightclub to say, do we want these COVID passes or not? They will not be required. So when it says find out if you need it, not everywhere will have it. So you will have to do some research. But yeah, you can either get them after you're double vaccinated, which for us will be a long time coming. A negative flow test, in which you will get your pass for 2 days. As it says here, sorry. And the positive PCR test, so if you test positive, after the self-isolation period, it will be valid for 180 days. Oh no, it will be valid for 180 days after a positive test. So realistically, 170. Because if you isolate for 10 days and then you're back out, you'll have 170 days left. And so we are expecting to see some of these, hopefully past Freedom Day, for some of these bigger venues. At least I hope so. And it is something that is quite surprising actually to be seen from the UK government. It seems to be a compromise on the vaccine passport idea, which was being panned by some Conservative MPs, and generally being floated as a very, plan E, plan F tier plan when it came to making sure people were tested negatively and people could go on holiday with proof of their vaccination status. It all looked like it was going to be dropped, but now it seemingly is going to be a thing in this country, following France's decision to do the same. In France, you're going to have to show health passes just to get into restaurants or cafes, shopping centres even. And I know they're also mandating that everybody over there also gets, all the healthcare workers, over there, also get double jabbed. They have to get double jabbed, otherwise they're not going back to work, which is something that I think is quite sensible as well. And the government is recommending that these nightclubs and large events ask you for your COVID passes. But it seems like some nightclub owners, as this one on Talk Radio we're about to listen to, are not a big fan, solely because it will mean less people getting in through the doors. And as we're about to listen to him say, the government haven't really made a big deal out of this policy. So I'm going to play the clip. We're going to listen to what Sajid Javid said about them, and then we're going to listen to a nightclub owner from London talk about why he is not going to be using the COVID passes for the majority of his clubs.
It's the plans in the House of Commons yesterday.
Businesses can use COVID status certification at their own discretion, and from step 4 onwards, the NHS COVID Pass will be accessible through the NHS app and other digital routes.
There it is. Proof will be available through the NHS app and also shows if a person has natural immunity after contracting the disease. The guidance is not mandatory. Nightclub owners have already come out to say they will not be asking customers for proof, including Recom UK, who owns 42 large venues throughout the country. Let's speak with Jeremy Joseph, nightclub owner, founder of GAY nightclub down in London. Jeremy, afternoon to you.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Great to have you on. It's never easy, is it, when the government make an announcement, because you have to pick through it and work out, well, does it apply to me?
You really
Is it
do.
mandatory? Will I be in trouble if I don't? I mean, what are you making, firstly, of what Mr. Javid said?
I mean, the whole thing is totally insane and ridiculous. I mean, you've got to start with that. I suppose last year they were saying, wash your hands. This year, they're washing their hands of the pandemic and throwing us to the sharks and the wolves, basically, and making it our decision what we do. You have to ask yourself, how will customers know what is required? Because, you know, what if I decide that we're going to expect you to be double jabbed or to have the negative test before coming, but another nightclub around the corner has a different rule?
He's absolutely right. I think he's absolutely right. It's going to get confusing between which places need COVID passes and which ones don't. Which places which ones will have it and which ones don't. And it will affect business because some people, this is not something that is being actively promoted by the government. Normally, like, how many of you have seen the Hands Face Space adverts or the Brexit adverts or basically any kind of governmental advert to do with COVID-19? Normally when they announce a new policy, those kind of adverts go straight to the top. Those are the kind of things that you will be seeing everywhere if you're, looking at news and you have your cookies turned on, right? But this is something I've not seen basically anything for. And the fact that this isn't being promoted, and the fact that this isn't even on the NHS COVID-19 app, this is on the regular NHS app, and there is a difference. And I know a lot of people who have the NHS COVID-19 app, but not the NHS app. It's inevitably going to get confusing, and it's inevitably going to lead to places that don't use this system being more popular because it's just less effort. Organ Rights reminds me of when supermarkets were told to police masks on their own. It won't happen for fear of losing business to those that don't follow the guide. That's a really smart comparison, actually. Really good, really well done on that one. Because, yeah, it's true. Some shoppers who entered without masks were told to get out of stores, right? But those are the ones that make the news. Like, I've walked into shops and I've seen people not wearing masks. I've heard people use the excuse, oh no, I'm exempt, even though, the odds are that they probably aren't. That's not to, disenfranchise or put down people who do have a legitimate excuse. But you can typically tell by the attitude that they have that it's more the fact that they just don't want to wear a mask rather than actually having a good reason for it. And yeah, why would these places ever do something that essentially limits the amount of money that they can get? Yes, there is an incentive to, make sure that your staff don't test positive. But at the same time, you need to get people through the door. Nightclubs have been closed for the best part of 15 months at this point. They need business desperately. And so I wouldn't be surprised if as you heard, that nightclub owners aren't going to be a fan of this. They're not going to do it. And especially if it's all confusing and the government's not promoting it, why would they promote it themselves? Because it seems like they're just putting a barrier to, especially young people, to get young people through the door. Because let's turn back to the criteria that you have to get through the door into one of these nightclubs with a successful COVID pass. You've got to have 2 doses of vaccine which is not going to be any young people right now. The earliest the young people, people my age, people who are typically of clubbing age, are going to be able to, get their second dose. It's probably the start of September, late August at earliest. A negative PCR test, sure, you can definitely do that. But of course, that is going to only last you for 48 hours. And if you've got a positive test, well, maybe, yeah. Obviously, you don't want one of those, but that will cover you slightly easier. Excuse me. So, yeah, nobody's going to be double vaccinated in our age group. Some young people are going to be lazy and just not do the tests that they need to do. It's just easier to get people through the door without this, it seems. Especially because young people are nightclubs' biggest audience. And they have been closed since March 2020. Comic Scholar writes, yeah, it's mainly idiot who refuse to wear masks. I have a heart murmur, asthma and fatigue. If I wear a mask in a shop and public, these idiots can wear one for a few minutes. I mean, yes, that's true in regards to the shop stuff. You're absolutely right. And I mean, here's the question that I heard asked on the radio. And this is a question that I think is so beautiful and really condenses the argument down into one sentence. What would you rather be free from? Would you rather be free from masks, or would you rather be free from COVID? Because I know what I would rather be free from. And yeah, wearing a mask in a shop is slightly annoying, I guess. But it is nowhere near as annoying as getting COVID and at the minimum having to self-isolate, and at worst, being hospitalised for it. It's a no-brainer. I feel like we are going to see a U-turn around the masks at some point. This is something we talked about last week, so I'm not going to go over it too much. But it's crazy to see, all these nightclubs not being... Well, it's not crazy to see all these nightclubs not being in favour of it, but it's crazy that the government isn't pushing this harder. Especially since the majority of us have smartphones, a good amount of us have the NHS app, and we're already using the NHS COVID-19 app, which they promoted the hell out of, to scan those QR codes and get us into venues today. And of course, what is this going to lead to? If you open up clubs and you remove all restrictions, on top of having a system to catch, these positive tested people, that nobody listens to, because ultimately that's what COVID passes are meant to do. It's meant to stop people who are positive for COVID-19 being allowed into these venues. But if nobody's listening to it, then it doesn't make a difference. But of course, what's that going to lead to? Massive spike in cases. This was a story from this morning. Cautionary tale from the Netherlands, coronavirus unlocking, the lessons the UK can learn. Because let's just go to the stats quickly. The Netherlands did a similar step-by-step unlocking of their economy and their institutions in a similar way that kind of we did. We had our unlockings at, we did schools are allowed back, and then some shops are allowed back, and then you're allowed to meet indoors again. Those are kind of the steps that we've gotten to, or at least some of the steps that we've gotten to. And yes, on the 26th of June, the Netherlands basically went, yes, we are free, we are open for business, do what you like. And they saw a massive rise in infections immediately after that. The daily infection rate in the Netherlands has risen 10 times in just 2 weeks, according to an analysis of the data. Look at that spike in cases. Look at it. They had a horrible moment in March and the earlier months of this year, as we did. And yet it came down, thanks to restrictions, And look at the jump in just 2 weeks of COVID-19 cases. Reminder, ladies and gentlemen, this is our daily cases. The spike doesn't seem as big, but it's because the graph has a different y-axis scale. So we are recording way more daily infections than the Netherlands are right now. But imagine an even sharper spike past past July the 19th. And you might get a picture of why the Netherlands have regretted opening their economy so early. Again, it's crazy that we are about to head head first into having no legal restrictions whatsoever. And the government have a solution to it. They've introduced this COVID pass scheme. But they have not promoted it whatsoever. They have not made it mandatory. And especially the people who need to use it, such as nightclubs or venues that have been closed since March and have made little to no money, there's no incentive for them to use it because they need to get people into their doors. And the main demographic that they're going to be looking for, 18 to 24-year-olds, have not been properly, will not have been double vaccinated by that point. And there will not be that many people who are taking tests right before going to nightclubs. The whole point of me doing this segment is to let you know that this is going to be a huge thing. If you want to go to nightclubs and you don't know if they're going to require a COVID pass of you, take a test beforehand and get it put onto your NHS app. Because I shouldn't be the one having to explain this in gruesome detail to you. The government should just be able to come out and advertise it and market it properly. If they really cared about getting people into these establishments in a safe way, you think that they would. But they're not. And I think we're going to see what the Netherlands saw. A huge spike in cases and inevitably a U-turn. So, do you think this pass system is going to work? And why aren't the government doubling down on it? Since it is their policy. You know, you'd think they would double down on something they wanted to enact and make sure that people are all safe. But here we are. So yes, do you think this pass system will work? Do you have more optimism than me? Or do you think it will go the way of masks in shops and nobody will enforce it really, and people will, and many establishments will just flat out not use it to protect the people in their establishments, I guess. Please let me know, because that is the final story of today's show. And I just want to say, I'm quite nervous for Freedom Day. It's a bit oxymoronic, I guess, that sentiment of being nervous for getting life back to normal. But like getting life back to normal is, at the expense of essentially us, right? Because we're the ones who aren't fully vaccinated and are the least protected. It's something that I'm not looking forward to. I've heard stories of people who are going to be isolating themselves. These are very much fringe cases, of course, and I don't think I will be doing that myself. But the mere fact that people are legitimately this scared, that we're seeing cases like this. And, I had my vaccine like last week, so I still have a week before the immunity effects kick in for me. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at all of these things I'm going to be able to do as of July the 19th. And I'm going, I want to enjoy these. but I want to be safe. And I'm not going to be, I am going to be cautious. I'm obviously still going to be wearing a mask. But I just want people to wear, other people to wear masks and to take precautions and to socially distance, because the alternative is hundreds of thousands of people getting COVID a day. And that is a recipe for a new variant. And we talked about that last week. If a new variant comes along that is resistant to the vaccine or makes the vaccine less effective, we could see all of this happen all over again. All the sacrifice that we've made go completely to the ditches because we wanted to get our economy open earlier. We wanted to feel normal again. I mean, Sajid Javid is even, encouraging people to go back into the office. And I can't help but thinking, why? If people, some people enjoy working from home. I just really hope that working from home becomes the norm. Part of me wants to do an episode on the lessons we can learn from coronavirus and why going back to strictly normal, aka exactly where we were, is probably not a wise idea. But it's something that it's something that baffles me when they talk about this is it, this is Freedom Day, we're never going back, at our expense. All the rights, they are really doubling down on the personal responsibility and ultra-liberalism as of late. Very bizarre given the problem is uniquely bad combated with that philosophy. It's true. How many, I immediately jump to America when I think of examples of this, right? But how many American states went, oh, we're going to not impose any legal restrictions whatsoever at the beginning of the pandemic because this is America. We're a free country. People should not be, dictated as to what they can and cannot do. And yet they saw the most amount of deaths in their states. This is a public health crisis, right? Emphasis on public, as in it affects all of us. And ideally, the public need to band together to make sure this goes away, with the direction of the people who lead us, the government. And yet, clarity in leadership is still yet to be found. We are going into a uncharted territory. Well, I mean, it's not even uncharted. We saw what happened in the Netherlands. It looks to be a tough road ahead. But hey, you've got TMC, folks. TMC will be here every single Friday at 3 p.m. to lift your spirits and to make sure that you're all in the know for every single piece of political information you could ever want to know from the last week. Of course, if nobody has anything left to say, apologies for the frame drops. I will look into them because I thought it was the capture card and apparently it isn't. But in the meantime, the links are there. You know what to do. We have been gaining followers. That follower goal that you see right there is actually broken. So I probably should replace it at some point. But yeah, please make sure to follow. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel because the YouTube channel will get up and running. You will see clips from this show, hopefully, on the YouTube channel in the week or weeks to come. And we're always going to be streaming on Twitch, of course, as well. You can find the videos on here if you'd like. But they won't be as nicely chopped up as they will be on YouTube. So, yeah, I think that is the end of TMC today. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you've learned something. We talked about a lot today. We talked about the fallout from the Euros and the racist abuse that was suffered at the hands of members of the England team. We talked about COVID passes and the future of getting into big crowded venues and the return to normal. And we talked about the leaked Kremlin documents obtained by The Guardian as well as laughing at two particular things today. Firstly, GB News for having less viewers than this show. Fantastic. As well as Nick Fentes because he got cancelled from the America Uncancelled CPAC convention. Lamau, you got wrecked, mate. Anyway, I will be signing off for now. Thank you so much for joining me. Join me back next Friday. Surely the Freedom Day isn't going to cause any crazy news stories whatsoever, and the next episode will surely be pretty dry. It's not like next week we will see the results of what opening up a country, despite having record or near record numbers of new infections per day, will entail. There's no way that's happening. Or will it? See you later, everyone. Take care, and I will see you next Friday. Goodbye.